make the whole city go against me. Every time I'm in the street, I hear yak, yak, yak.
Hello everyone. It is October 6th when I'm recording this. This will come out like a week after I record. I'm just getting a little head start. But welcome to the first video about the brand new Fantasy Hockey League. I can't believe we're actually doing this. Withers Rink Rats is here. We're going to preview the whole thing today. I'm going to take you through every team and try and figure out who's going to be good and who's going to suck. Because I know a lot of people have no idea who is good and who's going to suck. So I've done a couple bits of research. I think I have a general idea of who did well and who didn't do so well. A lot of teams actually did really well. I think it's going to be a fun season. But as commissioner and the man making the videos, I am just very excited to have this group of guys. Like, it's just so cool that we have like a bunch of people from Columbia and from Rochester and from all over the place. People that really, some don't even know each other at all. But here we are playing fantasy hockey together. I'm going to take you through just to make sure everyone knows who people are. And I'll take you through a breakdown of the divisions. And yeah, we'll just do that to start. So I've created, it's a 12-team league, of course. And on this side, we have the Pond division. This side, we have the Barn division. The reason I've done that and the way that we're creating these, in the Pond division, these 6 people are people that have, to the best of my knowledge, never played organized, like competitive hockey in a given capacity. Most of us, and everyone knows about it, in Rochester and in Minnesota, we've been playing boot hockey for years and years and years. But on the Pond side, they've never necessarily laced up the skates, put on a uniform, and gone into an arena to play hockey. On the Barn side, those are the people that have done that in some capacity. I mean, I haven't done that with ice, but I did it with roller hockey with Jared Siegel, who we'll talk about everyone that's on that side. But at least we've, put on a uniform and made it happen. If we were trying to find like a perfect 6-6, it wasn't going to happen. But that's why I'm over there. And there are a couple people that I guess I don't really know. So on the Pond side, it's Dylan Hilliker, Robert Schmidt, Lucas Janes, Sam Schutz, tag team, I believe, between Isaac Schumacher and Gavin Sparks and Elliot Newman. So all 6 of those guys are from Rochester or Austin, college roommate. Elliot's friend from elementary school all the way through. Sam met in high school. Lucas is my brother. Robert is Lucas's friend from school and now has become friends with all of us. And Dylan, met him through music and he went to John Marshall as well. So that's just for, the people that haven't got the chance to meet them or have just met them a couple times. Over in Barn, the same story. You have me, Jack Ryan, shadow recruit himself, a Mayo High School alum and a hockey player, played for the Spartans for a little bit. Kevin Andrews, Dylan's friend, went to JM, one of the roommates in this house right now, and played for JM for a little bit. I believe played hockey through most of school. Brian Wallentenowitz, big man, big goalie style. I don't know if he actually did play like organized hockey in St. Louis. I'm not entirely sure on that. Brian, please tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. But I know he's a hockey player and he's a big Sabres guy, big Blues guy. The Washington football team, Andrew Schumacher gets in the Barn because of his one season as the backup goalie for the Austin Packer hockey team a few years ago, if I remember correctly. And then beer league bender Jared Siegel, an old college roommate, good friend of Shoes and of mine, Chicago kid, didn't know how to skate or play hockey, I don't believe, growing up, but then really got into it with the Blackhawks and their run beating the Wild all the time, ended up playing roller hockey with me for a season and played longer, and now he is pretty active in Fayetteville, Arkansas, playing hockey. So those are your introductions. Now we got to talk about the actual teams, right? And this is how the league will set up, because I know that there's a lot of people in this league that have not been in the basketball league, the baseball league, the football league, where it's a lot of the same guys, and it's there's a specific like aura, for lack of a better term, about the entire thing. Like, it's just insane. The electricity is off the charts. But there are certain ways that we do things. The auction draft, I know that was something that people were like, oh, we're doing an auction draft? Like, yeah. And there are certain specific rules that are going to help us out. So how we're going to score this, it's going to be categories. There are 15 set categories that you will set your lineups for, and it's not necessarily like a points head-to-head thing. So let's take goals, for example. Like, obviously, your team scores more goals, you're going to win that category. And out of all the 15, so let's say hypothetically your team at the end of a week wins 8 categories, loses 6, and ties in 1. So your score is 8-6-1, right? That is going to be your record moving into the next week. It will not show 1-0. It will show 8-6-1, and the person against you will show 6-8-1, vice versa. And that goes for every matchup for the rest of the season. It's a 22-week regular season. You play everybody in the league twice. There is no like extra matchups between division opponents, and it's really, you don't go like 5 in the division, 6 out of the division, 5 in the division, as other leagues that we've set up, Shu and I, do so. The schedule is kind of random, and I've gone in and manually done that. So the schedule that you see from week 1 to week 22 is ready to go. Now, you will see week 23, week 24, week 25, right? Those are going to be manually set by me because we are doing the playoffs manually. That's something I put into the Snap group probably a couple weeks ago, because we're going to do it like hockey, like the actual NHL, where instead of just taking the 8 best as ESPN wants us to do for the playoffs, I'm going to take the top 4 from Pond and the top 4 from Barn. And we're going to manually set those, and it's going to say it's a regular season game, but we know it's the playoffs. I'm going to be very adamant. I'm going to let you know that the playoffs are starting. I'll stay on top of it. You're good. So the key for this, and it's only a $10 buy-in, and half of it's going towards a traveling trophy. The winner of the league will get $50. Second place will get their money back. So what I envision is, obviously, like, hockey was kind of 4th place of 4 as like fantasy sports that we could do. I know it took a little bit to kind of get, the excitement up and to get people to actually want to do this. And I'm very excited for it, and I hope y'all are too. I think we've set the groundwork for a cool league, but I think we're going to do this one season where it's a minimal buy-in. There's not a lot of money on the line. We're guaranteeing 4 playoff spots in each division. So if you don't know hockey at all, you are still going to have a shot to make the playoffs and actually like have a good team. And I don't even need to say that, because you're going to find out that I think the guys in the Pond division that are like, I made the division so the people in Pond would be able to get to the playoffs, I think they drafted way better. I think the Pond division is nasty. Like, we're going to see how it goes, but I just think that's how it is. Either way, we can talk at the end of the year whether we want to change a lot of these things. Like, I know some categories are up in the air. I know that in the divisions thing, it might screw somebody over that like was actually top 8 in the record, but was 5th in their division and missed. So I can see things that could happen. So we'll get together and have a conversation about buy-ins and playoffs and categories and how we want to score. Do we want to move to head-to-head points? Like, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. I think for rule changes in the middle of the season, because we are doing this like year 1, and I'm flying by my ass a little bit, and a lot of people are too. If you want to suggest a rule change, bring it to me, and I'll bring it to everybody. And if we can have a unanimous yes vote, that rule change can go into effect right away. I'm okay with that. And I have a little tier list. So if we get like 9 to 11, you get a vast majority of the league. I think it goes into effect at the end of the season. I don't want to make many changes in the middle of the year, but if there's obviously something that needs to be changed, we should be able to change it. So unanimous, it goes into effect right away. 9 to 11 votes, it goes into effect at the end of the year. If we get at least a majority of the league that says they want it, then we'll have at least a conversation about it at the end of the season. And if we don't get a majority of the league, just come back to me with a better suggestion, period. But we'll keep talking about it throughout the year, and we're going to troubleshoot together, and I'll try and lead this horse somewhere to where this is a really fun league. So that's really the intro to everything. That's all the information is just out there. So now I'm going to take you through these teams, and I did a little bit of analysis. I'm going to show you probably a screenshot of what I'm calling the Predictor. It's not going to predict really anything. It's just a way for me to go in and look at, okay, who's going to be good, who's going to suck. It's very primitive, I guess. I'm not getting paid enough for this shit. But here's how it goes, and I'm thinking I'm going to put a screenshot up. I'm not going to edit this until next week, so I'm just talking to a camera right now. Either way, I'm looking at my screen right now, and you're going to see a bunch of numbers. It's an Excel spreadsheet, and it's going to have some green cells, some red cells, some white cells, and the abbreviation, team abbreviation over there on the left. You got a total on the right. So how I've done this, I've gone into ESPN.com, and I've gone to the players tab and clicked add players, and then instead of available, I've selected all players. So it gives you a list of everyone. I don't know how they sort it, because like Nathan McKinnon's at the top, Connor McDavid is 4th, And it just kind of goes down in an order that seems like it's like, okay, the best players at the top and the worst players at the bottom, but I'm not really sure exactly how they're sorting it. Either way, it seems like it's a pretty solid ranking of these players. Oh, actually, you know what? It's percent rostered in leagues. That's what it is. So you'll look at this spreadsheet again, and let's take a look at, the right wing 12 slot, which is under Sidney Crosby. That is for Mikko Rantanen, the right wing that is owned in the highest percentage of leagues, which is like 99.8. So because he is the first right wing that I stumbled across, he gets 12 points assigned to him because he is the best starting right wing, right? So that goes under Robert. And then in 11th or second for 11 points is Nikita Kucherov under the right wing tab. So that goes 11 points to Andrew, and so on. We go down the list until, that last starting right wing is found, which is on Bubble Hockey Club. I don't even know who it is. So that's how those point totals get assigned, and it's for every position. But then also, in the case of Andrew, he has Nikita Kucherov and David Pastrnak, two right wings. Obviously, you can't start them both at the same time in that same position. So you go to the utility slot, and Andrew gets 12 points for his first utility slot. I know it's not a perfect stat, obviously, but I just needed something that I could just go down and make it happen and get a really quick idea of who drafted pretty well and who has those good starters, because I know the bench is pretty small for this league, and the waiver wire is going to be crazy. There's like 75, like people that are on the waiver wire own in 75% of leagues. So this league's rosters are actually pretty small, which is good for people that don't know hockey too well and are still trying to get this into the swing of things with the sport. All right, without further ado, let's go talk about some teams. How about it? Ready? Let's do it. We're going to start in Pond. We're going to start with Dylan Hilliker and the Russian Olympic Committee. Play the Soviet national anthem, please. Thank you. All right, the Predictor has him 9th and 5th in the Pond division, so on the outside looking into the playoffs. And I think he's right on that line. I mean, he's number 9 for the Predictor, and I agree with that. He's right on the edge of the playoffs. So he has Nathan McKinnon. So, goated, obviously. I think the center depth is okay. The X factor is going to be Evgeny Malkin for you whenever he comes back. The Kemper is here, which is nice. This goalie tandem is cool. The big X factor for this whole league is going to be how good the goalies are. 4 categories there. The goalies listed in 11 receivers. So I don't know if there's just one goalie in there. So we'll see. Now, Robert got his man. He named his team Sidney Crosby and got Sidney Crosby. So the Predictor has you as the worst team in the league by a little ways. And, if this team was built in 2016, even 2010, shit, you have Crosby and Ovechkin on the same team, and that is dope. And Mikko Rantanen, like that, the guy that we were talking about right away. So a first-line pairing, when healthy, of Ovechkin, Crosby, Rantanen is really solid, but you have to know that Crosby is slowing down a little bit. Ovechkin maybe too, but he's still going to be a fantasy contributor now that he's signed a new deal and is trying to break Wayne Gretzky's record for the most goals scored in a career. Like, he's going to be getting the puck. He's going to be on the power play doing his thing, setting up in one of those face-off dots and just clapping some bombs, which you love to see. Klingberg, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Zaitsev, Tyler Myers in defense. I mean, I don't know. Those are all names that I recognize. Klingberg and OEL are all right. I guess OEL is signed one of the worst deals in hockey, but Klingberg's solid, and I think from a fantasy standpoint, OEL will be all right. Robin Lehner is your goalie. Probably solid. He's been good past few years, so we're just going to have to see. Late season hot streak, I think, is going to be the one thing that could get Robert into the playoffs. If Crosby can come back and do well. Crosby is out right now and out for at least a couple weeks with wrist surgery. So We're going to see what happens. And Alex Ovechkin is your only left wing. You're going to have to fix that. There's a lot of centers here. Also, trade Eriksson to Lucas. That's what I'm about. Speaking of Lucas, let's talk about Eriksson's X. And this team, I think, might be the deepest team in the league. Definitely in the conversation. I think Lucas drafted really, really, really well. I'll hopefully put the screenshots up for the other two teams, and we'll put the screenshot up here for Lucas's team. And look at the depth on this guy. Like Stamkos, Shen, Hischier, Nico Hischier. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know, but I know he's good and he's young for the Devils. Panarin, Huberdeau, Bertuzzi. I do like Tyler Bertuzzi over there in Detroit. I hope he's still there. And that might be Todd. I might be getting him confused. Right wing, the captain for the Knights, Mark Stone, Oliver Bjorkstrand, Timo Meyer. And then in defense, dude, the defensive core on this team is absolutely nuts. Makar, Yossi, Doughty, Pietrangelo, and, I mean, who cares about Ristolainen? He's hilarious. But, I mean, those four are solid. And the goalie's Connor Hellebuck. I don't see many weaknesses on this team at all. If anything, maybe it's center depth, especially if Stamkos does his thing and gets hurt or goes on long-term IR because the Lightning need to save on the cap. I don't know. But that might be the one thing. But besides that, I mean, the wings, I think, look good. The defense is rock solid. And if you're going to have a goalie, it might as well be Connor Hellebuck. Like, he's in the top 5. So I think this is an absolute lock it down, barring an absolute collapse. I see this as a playoff team in Pond, and I think Lucas could have a shot to go to the Rink Rats final. We'll see who does it, though, because this Pond division is pretty stacked based off of what the stats are saying and what they're telling me. And Lucas was second in the Predictor and the first, the top team for what this flawed stat says, I know. But the number one team, regardless, is what we have to go off of, are the Rocky Mountain Spires. Sam Schutz makes his debut in the Swag House Fantasy Federation in fantasy hockey and goes out and, for what we can tell, has drafted the best team in the league. Bergeron, Hintz, Lowry, Fiala, your centers, and Fiala should get some wing eligibility at some point over the season, and probably other guys too, but I just know the Wild. Marchand, Landeskog, Goudreau on the left wing, only Mitch Marner on the right. You're going to need to make some moves there to shore that up, but then the defensive core is still solid. Petrie, Letang, Giordano, Shea Theodore is out right now, but should be back soon, and Devon Taves with an undisclosed surgery. Those you do hate to see. And a goalie pairing of Marc-Andre Fleury and Cam Talbot, that first-round series, Knights Wild, and we know how they played in that series. Fleury and Talbot were insane, and Sam has both of them. Now, Fleury in Chicago, so we're going to have to see how he does, but Cam Talbot, for all intents and purposes, should return to his form from last year, which was really solid. I mean, I'm not going to go that far for anyone to say that this is the clear number one team, but I think clearly the Spires have drafted to the point where they are in the top class of teams, at least. I think Lucas is in that caliber, and we'll talk about some other teams that I think are there. But I think Sam is definitely there right away, and he's going to have to be diligent, keep making some moves. This is a long season. This is a very long season, and you're going to have to make moves throughout the year in order to get yourself into a position not only to make the playoffs, but succeed come playoff time. These teams will look very different from now to March and April. And speaking of that, over in Pond still, you have two of the best in the young history of this federation and all the leagues that we've created. In the short history of them, two of the best managers, two commissioners actually, in Isaac Schumacher and Gavin Sparks, have teamed up to form the Bubble Hockey Club. Shu was going to be the lead guy, I believe, and Gavin just said he wanted to be in the league, and Shu took him. But I think this is a good team, too. I think maybe a step below what Lucas has done and what Sam has done, but still a really, really solid group. The centers, O'Reilly, Braden Point. I'm pissed I didn't get Braden Point. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Nicholas Backstrom, who does have no timetable for his return with a hip injury. Backstrom might be out for a while. Over on the left wing side, Gensel. Jake Gensel has COVID right now, but this is October, so he should be back in a few weeks, you would think, unless it fucks up his heart. We do not want to see that. And then Kyle Connor and Brandon Tanev on the left wing. Tanev in Seattle with the Kraken. That's cool. And your right wing, Tom Wilson, Vladimir Tarasenko, Nino Niederreiter, and Phil Kessel, who is also listed as out but should be back pretty soon. Defensive core, Alec Martinez, Seth Jones, Quinn Hughes, Sam Girard, and then Grubauer and Binnington as the goalie tandem, which I think might be the best in the league. Grubauer and Binnington, really solid. Right wing depth, I mean, is just not there. You know that Tarasenko is going to be in a new place soon. We'll see how his shoulder holds up. We'll see how his new team handles him. We'll see if the Blues even want to move him. So the Predictor does not like the right wing depth. I mean, that's where we got to go first. Because your starting guy is Tom Wilson, and Tarasenko and Niederreiter are just kind of there. But what else does it like? I got to take a look. I mean, the utility, the depth is there. Like, the starters are kind of not, but you're basically too deep across the board, which is really solid and will help you on those off days. And Shu is one of the only guys in this league. I mean, I am too. It's me, it's Lucas, it's Andrew, and Shu that have played categories not for hockey, but for baseball. So I think knowing that, actually knowing how to play categories might help a little bit. And I think you can see that in the draft, like the finished draft for Shu, because Shu was the only one that was drafting. Gavin was not there. So the depth is there, past right wing. I mean, your utility spots are going to be good. Your goalies look good. So I think this is a playoff team, but I think maybe just a step below with you might need some better starters. Maybe that's a decision if the start of the season doesn't go as well as you'd think. But I think it's going to be fine. I think the BHC, as I've started to call them, I think are going to be solid. And then the last team in pond, I'm going to need to get a breath after this, the Oslo Airbenders, Elliot Newman. You can tell that he has a strategy at this point. Like, if we went into basketball and watched the Neck Boys draft, Elliot didn't really have any strategy at all. But then once he realized, okay, you got to put in work to make this happen, he went and found a lot of young guys with high upside that were already playing a lot. Like, I mean, good players on bad teams, like prospect style. And it really helped him. It took him from 2-6 to a championship appearance where he ended up just losing on the final day to Isaac Schumacher and the Destroyers. Then in football, he did the same thing with the Twismas and got a bunch of young guys that are playing a lot high upside, and we're going to see how that goes. He's 2-2 right now, but he looks pretty solid and looks like he's got a good footing for years to come. He's done the same thing here, I believe, and the Predictor likes him at number 3. So the top 3 teams, remember this, Spires x Airbenders, based off of what the Predictor is telling us, 1, 2, 3 are all in pond. So it's going to be tough for those other 3 teams to make it happen at one spot for 3 teams. So let's take a look at the depth for Elliott now. Centers, Zibanejad, Suzuki, and Trocheck. That is pretty solid. I like Nick Suzuki a lot. Left wings, DeBrincat and Pacioretty. Again, you might want one more guy just to get some extra depth there in case both those guys play on the same night. But my God, DeBrincat and Pacioretty, solid. And the right wing, Sam Reinhart, Travis Konechny, Patrick Laine. I mean, big name, number 2 behind Eichel? No, behind McDavid. Oh, I don't remember. But he was behind someone that was really good. Defenseman, Jacob Trouba, Thomas Shabbat. That's a really good category guy. I think for time on ice or hits or something. Shabbat does really well. Tyson Barrie and Vince Dunn, the other defenseman. And then the goalies, he has Vasilevsky, Frederick Anderson, and Jacob Markstrom. So he is going the quantity and quality style for the goalies, really trying to lock up those 4 categories, it looks like. I think a solid playoff team here, honestly. Like, I do agree with a lot of what the spreadsheet kind of spit out at me. Like, you do the eye test with these teams. I'm like, okay, I think Lucas did well. I think Sam did well. I think Elliot did well. I think Shu did well. And, I mean, I think Dylan did okay. I think Robert did okay, too. But if we're talking about 4 teams that have to make the playoffs from one division, I think it's pretty solidly, 3 of those 4 have a good idea that they're going to be in contention. Long way to go. That's pond. Now let's talk about the guys that have played some hockey. Barn division time, and we're going to kick it off with who I think is going to be at least in a good shot to be division champion. If we're raising banners now, it might go to this guy. And it's cool that he's here. Welcome to the Federation, Jack Ryan. And his team name was St. Petersburg Ska, S-K-A. I don't even know. But now it's playoff Yips, and that is totally fair. The Yips are predicted at number 4 and at first in the Barn division. Let's take a look at the depth. At center, Austin Matthews, Mark Scheifele, Johnny T, and Ryan Strome. I mean, those top 3 at least, no disrespect to Ryan Strome, but like, my God, it's a 3-headed monster at center for Jack. Left wing Nikolai Ehlers and Svechnikov and Joel Farabee, who got some love early in the draft. I really do like Svechnikov. I wanted him really bad. He was on the Oklahoma City Roughnecks, which was a team that I created with my friend Clayton that won many Stanley Cups based off of Svechnikov. He's dope. He's going to be really good. And I wanted him bad, but Jack had more money than me. Right wing, Pavelski, another guy that I wanted, Pavel Buchnevich, who got traded from the Rangers to the Blues, I just believe, for Sammy Blais. It's like, what the hell? Buchnevich is sick. And then speaking of another sick right wing, Cole Caulfield is here. I think Jack has really blended talent for now and talent for the future. You talk about that Elliott style of drafting. I think, Jack saved his money. He went for depth. He's the only one, I believe, that has serious fantasy hockey experience out of the 12 of us. And I feel like he might have just fucked the entire league with what he did. Defensemen Dougie Hamilton, Mackenzie Weegar, and Aaron Ekblad. And then your goalies are Thatcher Demko and Linus Ullmark. And, I think that might get it done. I think Jack might know something that we don't and might know something that the spreadsheet can't apply for. We'll see how categories go. I don't even know if fantasy hockey normally does categories. It just felt like the right way to do it. Yeah, we're just going to have to see how it goes, but I like what Jack did. Jack obviously knows his hockey. He's a good man in that regard. So the question isn't whether we're going to see him in the playoffs, I don't think. It's just how far he's going to go. And I think he might win some playoff rounds, and the Yips might have to change their team name after a year. We'll see. Now, moving to Hermantown, where we have finished the Hermantown sphere of influence. You have the heroes in basketball, the hams in football, and welcome the Hermantown Hosers into existence. Predictor has them at 7, third place in the division, and it goes like this. At center, Sebastian Aho, Sean Couturier, there we go, and Evgeny Kuznetsov. At left wing, Connor McDavid's pair, Leon Draisaitl, then Chris Kreider and Claude Giroux. At right wing, Blake Wheeler, Connor Garland, and William Nylander. I like Nylander as a sneaky pick this year. Only 2 defensemen, but the number 1 scoring defenseman in the league, John Carlson and Ryan Pulak. And then the goalies, Jake Ettinger for the Stars is going to be the starter to begin the season. And then Carey Price is here as well, but he's out for a few games with that nagging knee injury that was part of the reason the Kraken didn't take him in the expansion draft. I do like this team a little bit more than the Predictor does. Kevin has been known, and this is part of it, Kevin has been known to draft teams that are super, super deep, whether he even knows it or not. That's what happened in basketball. We were literally just talking oh my God, yeah, that guy's a really good player. And Kevin picked up on it and knew the guys to draft. And now in basketball, he has probably the deepest team in the league. I think he has done a similar thing here where he has really good starters and knows he has to go get them and then just picks up on, okay, where's the action happening for the depth pieces and goes out and does it. He's also a hockey guy. I don't think Kevin really watches too much hockey necessarily, but he knows how to watch it. He's played it for many years. At least you have that experience there. So, I mean, I do like the Hosers to overperform what the Predictor is saying. There are a few spots open on this team, and we'll see what the moves end up being, but I do expect Kev to be in the thick of it. Okay, next up is me, the Novokuznetsk North Stars. I ended up getting the first nomination, and I had to go get my guy, and I got Kirill Kaprizov. It had to happen. I had said, I had been joking in the house that I was going to spend $150. It ended up being $55, way more than what he was valued at. But at 24 years old, I think I'm okay with it. Hopefully he can just come back and do it. Let's go through the depth quickly. Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, Josh Norris, and Brock Nelson at center. I don't really know. I like Pettersson a lot, but I don't know about the guys after that. I don't really even know Josh Norris. I don't even know who he is. Left wing, Kirill Kaprizov, Taylor Hall. I am so happy I got Taylor Hall. He looks so good for Boston. And Matthew Tkachuk, who's going to be a big hits guy for category specifically. Right wing, I'm going to need to do some work. Elias Lindholm and Brock Besser. I'm just hoping that Brock Besser goes and does his thing. He looks good always against the Wild, but he is from Minnesota and just kills it. Looks like young gravy, too. Check that. At defense, Ivan Provorov, Jacob Chychrun, Matt Dumba, and Jacob Slavin. I like all 4 of these guys. I know Slavin because he was a finalist for some trophy last year, the Lady Byng or something that Spurgeon was nominated for. Spurgeon didn't win it because Slavin did. And he looks really good for Carolina. Obviously, I like Matt Dumba. And Chychrun and Provorov are the 2 main guys, and they're young. And then my goalies are Juicy. It can't be Juicy, can it? There's no way. UC Saros, and I have John Gibson on here, but I've dropped him and picked up Alex Nedeljkovic, who was a finalist for the Calder, and Kaprizov won it as top rookie. And then the Canes traded him for whatever reason. I think he's good, and he'll be fine in Detroit. So, I mean, it's a younger team. I don't know if I'm going to be in the top class, but I think I've set myself up well for, 2 or 3 years down the road. It's going to be in the defensive core with Provorov and Chychrun, I believe. If they can perform, then this team is ready to go now. And if they don't, then we're okay. I'm going to have to make some moves and retool for next year. But, I mean, it might be a playoff spot. The Predictor likes me at number 5, second place in the Barn division. So, I mean, a playoff berth, I'm going to try and get it. And, if we can make a run, we'll make a run. We'll see what happens. And I'm glad I got Kaprizov. I'm happy about that. That needed to happen. Now let's talk about bodies, pucks, in parentheses, net. Brian Walentinowicz is here. The Predictor has him as the last playoff team, 4th in Barn and 8th in the league. And I think this team is so fun. I don't know what a quintessential Brian Walentinowicz fantasy team looks like, but I feel like this is a quintessential Brian Walentinowicz fantasy team. Centers. Alex Barkov, some of the best hands in this league, I swear to God. Anze Kopitar, Tyler Sagan, and William Karlsson. That is a 4-headed monster. I don't know if they're fantasy contributors necessarily, but I look at all 4 of those names and go, that's a stud, that's a stud, that's a stud, and that's a stud. So I think that's really cool at center. He's going to need some help on the wings. There's not really much depth there. Jamie Benn and Philip Forsberg on the left, and just Patty Kane on the right. But then there are so many defensemen here. It is absurd. Reigning Norris Trophy winner Adam Fox from the Rangers. Neil Pionk for the Jets. Charlie McAvoy. He's dropped Goligoski. I had Goligoski on here, but he is now on waivers. Josh Morrissey for the Jets. Jake Muzzin for the Leafs. And Miro Heiskanen for the Stars? I think. But all those guys, again, you go down these names, with the exception of Goligoski, who is not even on his team anymore, but Fox, Pionk, McAvoy, Morrissey, Muzzin, Heiskanen, that's 6 guys that are really solid defensemen. These guys are good. And then the goalie is the noted unvaccinated Mackenzie Blackwood. You don't love seeing it necessarily. So there's 3 spots that look super thin and 2 spots that look like they are overloaded with talent. So I think Brian has the pieces if he wants to wheel and deal to make a team that could be really scary. The pieces are there. The top end talent is there for sure. And the depth is there almost too much so in a couple of positions. So use some of that depth to create a more balanced team. And I see good things in this team's future. I think he drafted well with what was available. And I think just waiting a month, we're going to see a lot of guys overperform for Brian. Two more. The Washington football team is here. Andrew Schumacher becomes the only person to have one of 2 things. I guess both things be true. One, he's in all 4 leagues. That's 4 or 5 guys have done that. And number 2, he's got the same team name in all 4. The Washington football team cannot be escaped. The Predictor does not like what he did necessarily. They've got him 10th, so 5th in Barn and out of the playoffs. Let's take a look at why they say that. At center, Matt Barzal and Andrew Kopp. At left wing, oh my God, you are not going to play Evander Kane at all. He's not going to play this year. Just drop him. Drop him, bro. Jonathan Marchessault and Mike Hoffman. At right wing, this might be the scariest duo in the league. Kucherov and Pasternak. And then Brian Rust. Sorry, Brian Rust, you're not going to play. Likely, because Kucherov and Pasternak are just insane. And then at defense, Brent Burns, Jared Spurgeon, Torrey Krug, Matthias Ekholm, and then goalies Tristan Jarry, Semyon Varlamov, and Mike Smith. So, I mean, you got Barzal, Kucherov, and Pasternak are insane. And if they can just put the team on their back and carry, maybe Brent Burns too, but I feel like he's kind of doing this now. If those 3 can just put the team in a backpack and just carry them, I think that would be really cool. I just don't necessarily see it in a league where there's 15 different categories. And Kucherov, I don't even know if these guys just circle around in the offensive zone and cherry pick, or if these guys are kind of 200-foot guys that could go win a Selke. I know neither of them have won a Selke, but I don't really pay attention to that too much, just when Koivu was there. Either way, yeah, we'll see. We'll see on this. But the football team is always there. Like, Andrew has never had a bad team in any league ever, so I'll believe it when I see it. And then finally, Jared Siegel is here. Welcome to the Federation, Mr. Jared Siegel. He's called his team Beer League Bender. The Predictor does not like what he did either. He's 11th of 12 and last in the barn. Let's take a look at why. Well, his center, you got a pretty good guy. I mean, he's pretty good at hockey. I think he's kind of an underrated pick. I would honestly expect him to, overperform on some expectations a little bit. Maybe surprise some guys. His name's Connor McDavid. Just check on him throughout the year, and I think you really it was a really nice steal, Jared, grabbing him pretty early on before people were even aware that he was there, honestly. I'm joking. Jonathan Toews, Jacob Verana round out the center spot. Left wing, Dominic Kubalik for the Blackhawks. Brady Tkachuk, Max Comtois. Is he French? Shit, I don't know. A lot of weird hockey names, man. And Christian Dvorak. Right wing, the homie, JT Comfort. Good work. Along with Teuvo Teravainen and David Perron. Defenseman Darnell Nurse for the Oilers, Essa Lindell for the Stars, and Zach Werenski. He was with the Blue Jackets, is not there anymore. I do not remember where he's gone. Goalie Igor Shesterkin, who is replacing Henrik Lundqvist, and Carter Hart for the Flyers. So, Jared, good work getting Comfort. I mean, you got the guy that you had to have. And this is another one. Like, how far can McDavid and... Jesus. I mean, it's really McDavid and some homies. This really is like the Oilers. How far can McDavid take a fantasy hockey team? We are about to find out. And yeah, we're just going to have to see. Because Taves coming back is going to be cool. I'll give you a little nugget from the baseball league. Because Buster Posey was in a similar situation to Jonathan Toews. I mean, Toews had like an autoimmune thing, I believe. So he had something he was dealing with to miss 2020. Buster Posey just kind of chose to skip it because of COVID in baseball. But they're both about similar ages and have been really successful in the past. And this season, Buster Posey went crazy as a catcher for the Giants. It's one of the reasons that the Giants won 107 games, that Buster Posey was doing so well. I expect similar things out of Toews this year. I think he's going to have a really nice bounce back. So I think that'll be good for Jared. But then your two best players are going to be both centers. And that's a big if as well. So a lot of it rests on Kubalik. And if he can actually, play with Toews, you can get some of those, like, if Toews scores, Kubalik gets the assist, and really it's going to be vice versa, Toews passing to him and making it happen on the wings. So again, every team has a little bit of upside. I don't think there are any teams that we can say they're not going to make the playoffs. There are some teams you can say, yeah, you're probably going to be good. But I think everyone has a shot this year so far. It's because I don't really know the ins and outs, the intricacies of hockey too well. I know how to play it and the good guys in the NHL, but this is what this league is about, taking a lot of people into hockey and learning the sport along with some people that know it really well, and we can have some fun times as we go along. So let's go through what the Predictor says one last time, what this flawed stat in itself has to say, so we can just go off it. I'll go in reverse order. Sidney Crosby at 12, Jared and Beer League Bender at 11, the football team at 10, and then the Russian Olympic Committee at 9. That's where it kind of cuts off, the non-playoff teams. And number 8, the first playoff team, Bodies Pucks. Then it's the Hosers. Then it's Bubble Hockey, the North Stars, the Yips, the Airbenders, the X, and at number 1, the Spires. I have my own predictions. I didn't do just like a 12-1 ranking, but I will tell you what I'm thinking just based off looking at the rosters. It's pretty similar. I think I do have the same 8 playoff teams, but just the seedings are different. I'll probably put a screenshot around here. I'm looking at it right now on my laptop. But I think, honestly, Lucas probably wins Pond and gets that number 1 seed. Sam gets 2. And then I like Shu and Gavin to just be diligent and find ways to win off of watching hockey and feeling out who is going to be good in winning categories. So I think they go from 4th in the Predictor rankings in Pond to 3rd, and then Elliot just falls to 4th. Not because Elliot did anything wrong, just because there's a lot of good teams over here. Missing the playoffs, Dylan and Robert. Then over in Barn, I do have the Yips at number 1 because I think Jack just knows the most. Like, he's going to be solid and drafted well. I think Brian goes up to number 2 just after making some moves. I just know that the talent is there, and Brian is also someone who knows hockey really well. I'll go myself at 3, and I'll go Kevin at 4, and then Andrew and Jared on the outside looking in. But that is not to say that they can't do it. I think that's about it. We can take a look at week 1 and the, first matchups. because this is a rivalry week technically. How I've done this, I've made the first week, like your rival. You're playing someone that you at least kind of know. And it's going to be weird with like the divisions, and we bring in new people in. So like you're going to be playing a lot of people that you might not know, but I tried my best to at least give some sort of matchup. Make it at least cool for everybody week 1. So I'll give you a game of the week. I haven't decided that. I just got to look through it. Yeah, okay, got it. So we'll talk about the game of the week last. So, I mean, a big game. I'm not going to make this game of the week. It might be game of the week later on in the season when we do this again. But I start my season against Jack. And that, I think, is going to be really fun over in Barn. It's 2 of the top teams that Predictor says. I think both the teams are solid, too. We'll see who can get it done. I think Jack probably will, but I'm going to do my best to at least get some categories and make something happen. We, of course, have Lucas versus Robert, the X versus Sidney Crosby. That's always a fun time. We have Andrew Schumacher against Kevin Andrews. That's a matchup that's happened a few times before, not necessarily a rivalry, but they have met in the past. It's been a good basketball matchup, a good football matchup as well. I don't know when that happens in football. Hopefully it's the same week. We'll see. In a Columbia matchup, all Columbia, it is going to be Brian and Bodies Pucks against Jared Siegel. Brian, Jared. That's something I do want to see on the ice at some point. If y'all come up for the Winter Classic, let's do that. And then we have Shu and Gavin against Dylan, Bubble Hockey Club against the Russian Olympic Committee. I'm not even going to try and say what that says. And then the game of the week. The game of the week to start things. The Oslo Airbenders against the very first game in the existence of the Rocky Mountain Spires. Sam Schutz is here. Obviously, he's one of 4 people to make their debuts in this whole fantasy thing. But I know Sam has been very, very close. He's been watching from the house, watching us watch fantasy basketball and even baseball a little bit, but mostly basketball. And now Sam is here in a sport that he enjoys, and I'm excited to see the future for the Spires. And he goes up against Elliot. This is a Young Park Bowl, maybe? Is that the name I'll give it? I'm going to be the name I'll give it. There we go. That's week 1, and I believe we play in division as well for week 2. We'll preview that. Yes, we do. We'll preview that when it happens. But yeah, thanks for sitting through all of this. Hopefully I'll just put some music down, edit it a little bit, and this will come out in a week's time from when I'm recording this. So thank you. A couple of things to remember. Get pucks deep. Cycle the puck. Quick shifts. And then get it to your D-men on the top of the zone so they can take clap bombs from the high slot. You can hit bar south, not down, south. And as always, Sally hard and set your lineups. Thank you for being a part of the league. We will talk in a little bit.